Thank you for tuning into The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I'd like to send you a warm welcome. Here, I talk about issues that happen within the black community, hopefully for some resolution or at least some food for thought to go about your daily way. So, without further ado, I'd like to jump into this episode's topic, which is why single motherhood is a death trap for the black woman. Okay? So, first off, we often discuss in the black community about the death of our black men being shot by law enforcement or killing each other, or how many brothers willfully throw their lives away by perpetual activities that land them in prison. So, we're always talking about, how our black men are conditioned to, kill each other, activities that land them in prison and, police brutality, okay? But when are we as black women going to recognize that single motherhood is mentally and physically killing the black woman, okay? Furthermore, why is it only the black woman that has to play this tough role? What are we trying to prove and at what cost? Okay, so this is a question to my beloved black sisters out there, okay? Which leads me right back into the episode's topic, why single motherhood is a death trap for the black woman. I wanted to first start off by saying hello to all my single mothers, all my beautiful black single mothers across the country and the world. I know how thankless the job can be. Not only that, but not every black sister set out to have children without a supportive husband, okay? So not every black woman's goal was to have children without a husband and a father for their children. Situations like perpetual domestic violence or father to child abuse are reasons that sticking it out with your child's father may not be possible. And it could be life threatening, okay? But my message isn't for the sisters who were forced through unfortunate circumstances to become single mothers, okay? My message in this episode is to inform, encourage, and explain the importance of creating whole families for the black youth. Also, the hidden dangers associated with single motherhood towards black women, okay? So, I wanted to go into some reasoning as to why it's so detrimental that we as black women make better choices and really express to men, regardless of who you're dating, that your aim is to become a wife and to, if you're going to have children especially, okay? Okay, so number one, while other races of women feel a sense of failure, not only to themselves by being an unwed mother, but also a sense of failure to their children by not securing a live-in father. Meanwhile, it has become an epidemic amongst majority of black women to see no error in initially starting off as a single mother. And with many of our young sisters, marriage was never an option or a thought, but having children was. So this is a problem, that we're having within the black community. For other races of women, it's seen as a slap in the face to be a single mother, and they kind of feel a sense of failure. Not all of them, but a lot of them do feel a sense of failure when they don't secure a family for their child. Okay, so there's all sorts of families. You got single mother families, you got grandparent families, auntie and uncle adopted families, but I'm talking about the sense of having a child by a man that you were never married to, and the effects that this has on not only the woman having the child, excuse me, technical difficulties, but also the children involved. And I find with a lot of our young black women now is there's no shame in it. Like, their thought, it never crossed their mind to even be a wife, but they're sure thinking of how many children they're going to have. And I think, that's kind of backwards for us as black women, especially for us to teach our daughters or to set examples that, it's okay for you to have children, but not even to be thinking about marriage, okay? So we need to reverse that around and think about marriage and who we're going to marry, and then later down the lane, who we're going to have children by. Okay? Number two, when we look at how the black woman's lack of need for a husband has evolved. When you start back and you think about slavery, the black husband and father was torn and stripped from the black family. Okay, so the black woman had to learn how to live without the black man forcefully. And then through the 60s, the black woman had to make a choice or an ultimatum: either feed the children without a man, okay, through welfare and things of that nature, or possibly be hungry with a man in the house. Because, back in those times, it was hard for black men to have jobs and employment and things of that nature. So, it was a very tough decision. And now, currently, it has been so ingrained in the black woman not to have a man in the home or the house, while our black men are conditioned to hop from home to home, okay? So it's been conditioned in us now through the generations, that, the black woman has been conditioned that she doesn't need a man, that she's just going to have these children and break her back, her mind, and everything else just to raise the children. And I think it's one thing when you have to do it. But then it's one thing for you to sign up for the pain. Like, as black women, a lot, we're signing up for this pain and we're not talking about it. We're making it seem like it's okay, but we're not talking about the hidden dangers of what it takes to raise the children. And that's what I want to discuss now. Number three, single motherhood is something that we survive and deal with, but shouldn't be celebrated no more than when black men celebrate jail time or thug life, okay? So as black people, we've got to stop celebrating the things that hurt us the most. As black women, we're always talking about we're a survivor, we're this and that. And that's great when you have to survive something. There's nothing wrong with surviving, abusive situations and things of that nature. But it shouldn't be the first thing that we do. Like, we put ourselves in situations, or we choose to deal with guys that don't mean us well. And then, we want to celebrate, this single motherhood when it's just not all that great. We need to stop telling our young daughters and people that it is so great. And it just really isn't. And like I said, it can no more be celebrated than when black men go around screaming thug life. They're celebrating death and destruction amongst their own black brethren. Okay, so it goes hand in hand. Also, for example, so many black women jump into single motherhood, but when they get there, they want to escape, attempting to spend many hours away from the children, either trying to party or club, or go to work trying to, get away from the children, yelling at or abusing the children out of frustration or regret, or rushing the children's childhood to grow up out of feelings of being restricted as a woman and eager to regain a life outside of raising children alone, because that's happening a lot in the African American community. A lot of single mothers, they're rushing their children to grow up. Why? Because they want them to grow up as quick as possible so they can go back and live some type of life. As a mother, to go back and live some type of life, and that's robbing our children. And if we want to say that there's no really big deal about this, right? Then we have to question ourselves on the real issues in our community. Why is there such an influx, an increase of black mother to child homicide? Why is there such an increase in black mother to child abuse? The reason why is because a lot of our black mothers, they're regretting the decisions. Okay, they're regretting the decisions of being a single mother. They see how hard it is, how they're not being recognized by the man that they had a child by. They're seeing how hard it is financially and how it does restrict them even more so than a married woman, because at least, if she is confined to the home, she has her husband coming home. The children that she's restricted for belong to the man that she's married to, versus a woman that's single and she has these children, and it's like, well, who's the guy to love her and to validate her? She doesn't have that. So this can create mental illnesses. Okay, your finances being restricted, not being able to go, or not being able to finish certain goals and dreams and aspirations. You don't think about these things, especially a lot of our young sisters, they're not thinking about these things. But then when they get in the situation, they have a child, 2 or 3 children, then they get upset, they get frustrated, then mental illness starts to develop, and then there you go. The children are being beaten on, the children are being killed, okay, and just letting different guys in because you're not caring about the well-being of your children because you're so upset about having to do this role of being a single mother when it's much easier to be married to the father of your child, so you don't have to worry about a foreign guy coming in. So all these things that we as black women, we must start thinking before we just say, oh, single motherhood is so great, and it's so easy to do. And if it was so easy to do, the thing, like I said, that we need to ask ourselves is, why are so many black women killing off their children if it was just that easy as we say it is, okay? Versus having a partner to grow old with and can help you raise the children who are biologically his. Okay, number 4, the denial that many of our black children are being robbed of a wholesome family. So my question to my fellow black sisters is, besides the Jordans, the Xboxes, and the PlayStation 5s we buy our children, okay, do we feel like our children's future is worth having a father that lives in the home? So it's one thing for us to spoil our children. We buy them new clothes, we buy them new uniforms for school, we work hard and stuff like that. And so that's one of the ways that we show that we value our children. We take them on trips and stuff like that. But as black women, we need to start asking ourselves, so despite what we think we need, okay, oh, I can raise a child by myself, I have my aunts, my sisters, and all these things that we as black women tend to say, but what do our children think though? And what do we think about our children, and how do we value our children besides material things? How about our children not being robbed of having a live-in father that loves them, that they can see their reflection in their own father versus another man that you're dating and that just becomes a live-in boyfriend? And we need to start thinking about these things as we create children as black women. If we don't care about these things, maybe we should question why we're having children in the first place. If we don't want a husband, if we don't want someone to live in the house that the children biologically belong to the same man, if these things are not important to you and you don't care about them, we need to question our reasoning to having children in the first place as black women. Also, another reason black people stay poor is because of the lack of two-parent households. When you look back on the last 600 to 700 years, when we look at, for example, the European race or other races of people, they not only married to join together two families and sometimes to make peace treaties by marrying off their daughter and their son, but it also created generational wealth. Why? Because you have two people coming from two families, two people's monies being joined together. And that's why when we say, oh, there's white women that are single mothers now, and there's white men that are single fathers and all these type of things, they've already built their wealth. Okay? I mean, yeah, they built their wealth in other ways too, but we're talking about even before slavery, how they joined together families and they made sure that there was some type of structure and that they could join together money. And that's where we as black people, we're missing the point at that. We got black women working really hard. They're working all these hours, but yet they're still broke because all their money is going on the children because she doesn't have any money to herself because there's no man in the house. And then we look at the black man, he's taking care of 3 or 4 or 5 families because he's got 3 or 4 women pregnant versus being intelligent enough to have one family, okay, and to put all his money into himself and one family, and both black men and women putting their monies together to be able to create some type of wealth for their children's children. And so those are the things that we need to really concentrate on as black people, which keeps us in poverty. Okay. Number 4, when it comes to black women and single parenting, it is always discussed from an angle of black women always being the strong one. Okay. So when we talk about single parenting, okay, it's one thing not to complain, and to be this complainer, but it's always talking about like we're so strong, right? But when are we as black women going to come to the realization that the black woman is always the one who got played. Okay? And that she had to become strong, which isn't necessarily a positive thing. Okay? Because we, like I said, we talk about it from this angle as black women a lot, that we're strong and we're survivor and stuff. But we're not really being honest that this is another failed relationship that we failed to secure as a woman. That our children are still in the house and we're still husbandless and we're still working all these hours, accumulating high blood pressure and all these sicknesses and illnesses because we're doing all this stressing. Okay? So we need to come to this realization. Okay? Let me explain further. Not much is expressed at the trauma many black women face or faced at the end of their parenting years. Okay? So when it's all said and done, when the kids are all, when the kids are all grown and, all the kids are out the house. Yeah, she did it. She raised all three of those kids. Okay? But it's not talked about how many illnesses that she may have accumulated, like hypertension, which is high blood pressure, diabetes, schizophrenia, anger, depression issues, early death. It's not talked about when Big Mama had to do it on her own. Okay, it's not talked about it very much. It's always just talked about, yay, 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 the black woman's so strong. But we're not talking about the things and the misfortunes that the black woman has had to face at the strength of trying to quote unquote be so strong to raise children on her own. Not much is discussed about the price the black woman has to pay continually, okay, promoting single motherhood that passes from one generation to another. But when will it stop? Okay, I'm asking the black woman, when will it stop? Okay, black woman, you are worth a husband. Okay, so I want to go over some things and really explain to the black woman and express to the black woman that you are worth a husband. Okay, it's not just other races of women that is worth a husband. Okay, and a man that belongs to them and their family and children, but so are you, black woman. Okay, our black children are worth having an everyday live-in father, not a part-time father, not a Instagram, Google dual, video cam father, not a every weekend father, not a every other weekend father, not a court-ordered child support paying father, but a father that has his slippers underneath the foot of the bed. Our black children are worth that. Child support can never replace the love, attention, and daily live-in support of a physical father. Half of our diagnoses and illnesses could be cut in half if a husband could help with the children. Okay, all the hours that we have to work and all the things and getting the children back and forth to school, busing 24 hours, going from one job to another job, coming home trying to clean, cook, and all these things that the black woman overextends herself in, and she prides herself, and other people keep cheering us on to be this single mom when it's killing us as black women. And when we first recognize the problem, that's when we can actually come up with a solution as black people. And lastly, despite the massive numbers, it isn't normal to have children without a husband. And it is high time that we as black women recognize that. Look, that pretty much concludes this episode. I just want to tell all my sisters out there that I love you very much. If there's any black brothers that's listening, I love you as well. I wanted to take a little second to thank all my subscribers, the new ones, the older ones from day one. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet and you felt what you heard, you can hit the subscribe, like, share, or notification button. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, you can contact me at thetruthwithtrinity.com. You can also listen to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor. And always remember, if you can't tell the truth with anyone else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, take care.